Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video covering the Blackshark V3 Pro and my thoughts, my impressions. It's not necessarily going to be a full review. I wasn't even going to do a video, but I figured I might as well get my thoughts and my impressions out there. I bought this myself. It was not sent out by Razer, and it was really just for me to have a test baseline to see where are headsets now, like the new headsets that are hitting the market. How do they compare to those things that we've been building upon on the wallhack certified tier list for IEMs and our little listing for headphones as well? Like, where are things really landing in the headset realm? And I do think that the Blackshark V3 Pro is probably better than 90% of the headsets that I've tested to date. There's a lot to like here. There's some cool functionality. I did run into a few issues while I was using it, but I think overall, the comfort is definitely something to speak highly of. I found the cushions to be very well padded, the headband as well. I didn't have any issues there. It's not a very tight headset on the head. There's a ton of give here on the headband itself, ton of range for the cups themselves in terms of where you can have the general resting position. I don't think that anybody would have a hard time with the overall comfort here. And the aesthetic, I mean, it's got the Razer branding on the cups. It's got the Razer branding on top here. But overall, I mean, a very comfortable headset. The microphone is absolutely ginormous and looks goofy on your face, but based on the feedback that I got on Discord, the microphone was actually fairly good. I'll do a little sound test at the end, but there was this controversy I know early on about the microphone, and then they had a firmware update, and now it sounds pretty good. I obviously have not heard it originally because I just got this, and it did come with the firmware update preloaded. What I will say is there's a lot in terms of the software itself. So there's a ton of different EQ presets. There's the THX spatial audio feature as well. I would never turn that on. The headset sounds best in stereo mode. The THX spatial audio almost just makes it like kind of this fake inflated soundstage, but it just makes things not come through with that level of emphasis and urgency that I would want out of a headset. It just takes away too much of that competitive feature to expand upon in a fake way the soundstage. It just doesn't provide any benefit in my personal opinion. And that goes from my EQ to the default EQ, the game EQ, different esport EQs, etc. What I will say is with all of the EQs, you do have a button on the right cup. You hit it and it swaps through the EQs. I only ran into an issue like when I was too quickly changing through EQs, like the headset just turned off and I lost all audio. I don't quite know what that is, but when you change the EQs, a little voice comes on. It tells you what EQ you're on. Like, that is pretty cool because I don't have to look what EQ preset I'm on. You've got a volume knob that goes and can adjust the positioning of like game audio and voice chat audio, which I do like. And then you have the ANC button here that you can shift through different presets for the active noise cancellation. I like ANC. With it on, I can't hear my computer fans, which is nice. But I also can't hear myself talking. So if you prefer to hear yourself talking, there is a ANC mode as well that pulls in ambient noise. That makes it pretty easy to hear your voice, where I don't think you would need any side tone or anything like that, or you can just turn it off completely. And you do pick a little bit with it off, a little bit of the ambient noise. So, I think the active noise cancellation here is great. It does have an effect on the tuning of the headset. And my EQ is with ANC on. So keep that in mind as well. The microphone, again, is absolutely ginormous. Like, I just hate having these things in my face, which is why I did go to a desktop setup. But again, my teammates did say that my microphone sounded pretty solid. So there's a lot to be said about that. You've got the power button over here. You've got mute for your microphone, which is always nice too. So when you're going to the bathroom and taking a whiz, your teammates don't have to hear that unless you want them to. And then the microphone just connects right here. So overall, I didn't have any issue with the comfort of the cups. Again, good, a bit of cushioning here. They didn't bottom out for me. And the texture of the cushions did feel fine for my skin and for me. Now, what I will say is that I did originally have an issue in Apex as well as Valorant on the default tuning. Things just didn't get loud enough at all. to be able to pick out like really anything. I was straining to hear things in Apex. In the settings, if you open your volume mixer and you go to the headphone, if you turn off all of the default EQ, like the default audio presets, just turn it off, you actually do get a little bit additional volume. But overall, with the EQ, even with that on, I did find that I got enough volume out of Apex and Valorant. So that is why I moved up a few things. But in the EQ presets, I'll just go over it at for the first slot here at 31 hertz. I've got that to +4, 63 hertz +4. And then 125, 250, and 500, I'm at +5. 1K, I'm at +4. For 1K, 2K, and 4K. And then I'm at +3 dB for 8K and +2 for 16K. With this EQ, I found it to be a way to actually get a lot out of the competitive features, like both the mid-bass, stockier steps, as well as some of the things on the upper mid-range. I did find like slides, light taps, etc. came through quite nicely. I didn't find gunfire in Apex to be overpowering. And the separation and layering out of these drivers is, I would say, something that compares or about to a B range on the wallhack certified tier list for IEM. So overall, like, it is a headset that is performing pretty well once you get it tuned appropriately, and something that I do find worked well in Valorant, COD, and Apex. So out of all of the headsets that I've tested, depending on how you're tuning it and which EQ you're going for, obviously, the mid-bass and the bass can sound rather muddy, but I don't find the mid-bass or the sub to sound bloaty and cut into the mid. So it's fairly tight bass, but it can feel ever so more pillowy and weightless depending on how you're EQing it. So my default EQ, again, I thought was a great way to get everything to sound rather good with still pulling out some of those competitive aspects out of the default tuning. So when you swap to game, I did find game to actually sound pretty good in Valorant, but again, it just makes things sound very drowned out and just not overly enjoyable as a whole. The bass begins to sound very pillowy, and it's just not something that, like when you're shooting a Vandal, the thockier footsteps, again, just sound very pillowy and unenjoyable. Movie and music, I didn't like either of those tunings for movies or music. And then the esports tunings, the Valorant tuning, I thought was absolutely horrendous in comparison to the game tuning. So, take that for what it is. It just made it sound like all the guns, I was shooting like peas out of my guns. And then the Apex Legends esports tuning was absolutely abysmal. I don't know who made that, but it seems like they were trying to cut down the mid-range and then just lift footsteps and gunfire. But it just makes everything sound absolutely horrendous in general. And the game, I didn't find any of those things to actually be drawn out in any significant effect or with any significant impact. So there's a lot to like here in terms of the features. Again, active noise cancellation, I thought was great. Wasn't able to hear my fans, and then if I did want ambient noise to come through and I wanted to hear my voice, I could do that as well. I didn't use any of the audio enhancements, but in-call audio mix is pretty cool. You can actually actively have Bluetooth connected while also on 2.4 gig wireless, which I think is a very cool feature. And then the microphone, I'll give you guys a little test in a little bit, and it does have great connectivity from what I've tested. I mean, I could go to my other bedroom downstairs to that bathroom and I still had connectivity. So I think it has good range. But a lot of the EQs just really sound piss poor to me. I wouldn't recommend really any of them except maybe the game EQ for Val. But I think my default tuning, to me, it's a way to get the headset to sound actually just generally good and fairly more natural than any of the EQs, and with a bit of a bass boost. So To me, it's a headset that, again, there's a little bit of sibilance. Depending on which way you go, the bass sounds a little bit muddy, but not bloaty. It's not something that carries over and kills the mids. And it does have pretty good separation and layering for a headset. To me, like with my tuning, it is a little bit of a intimate soundstage, but one that I thought Gunfire at a Distance and Apex had really nice draw. I was able to turn my crosshair with very nice emphasis and urgency. Third parties were handled pretty well. I had very good imaging and depth perception out of the set in Apex. Once you add that third party, though, the separation and layering do drown out a little bit. I thought shield cells, while I'm popping them, I didn't have deer in the headlights or any like lack of breathability, which is something that I look for too for separation and layering. So overall, like a pretty good performer in Apex. With the right EQ. In Valorant, it became even better because there's just less going on. I found the footsteps in each region with my EQ, both the lighter taps as well as the deeper thoughts to shine through pretty well. A nice sense of when somebody is exactly about to come out. So overall, like a solid performer in COD and Apex and Valorant. But where I would place it in comparison to other IEMs on my wallhack certified tier list, it would probably fall into like that B range. And there are IEMs that are B- that border a B that would combat this in Apex and other titles as well. So take that for what it is. It's just, you know, if you're in the market for a wireless headset, in comparison to other wireless headsets, the one I've tested most recently would be Logitech's offering. And I do think that this beats Logitech's offering on what I can recall. And I've got the headset right now in its default EQ. I've got it on my head with the microphone. I'll give you guys a sound test. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is Fresh Reviews coming at you. What's going on? So guys, that is it for this one. Again, it's not a full review just because I wouldn't feel comfortable really giving it my blessing without having tested other newer headsets on the market. The closest thing, again, to my testing of this was the new Logitech headset. And that's really my only baseline. And again, I do steer towards this more than that. But would I recommend this over a really good pair of IEMs? No. Would I recommend it over a really good pair of headphones? No. But, you know, if you only can go wireless or you only want wireless and that's the only thing that you will deal with, again, it is something that I can say is probably better than 90% of what I've tried with, again, the right EQ. So it is what it is, guys. It is $250. Again, it's a lot of money and a lot of money that you could use for a really nice desktop microphone and a really nice amp deck and a really nice option in either a headphone or a IEM. So, you know, again, look at your options. But that is my thoughts, my impressions on the Blackshark V3 Pro. I hope it helped, guys. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.